Hello, everyone. My name is Mark from the Misplay Podcast, and you're listening to Eternal Journey, everyone's favorite Eternal podcast.
Welcome to Eternal Journey, the podcast.
Greetings, all my knights and Puntawans. You are listening to Eternal Journey, the podcast that talks about all things eternal with a focus on limited play. This is episode 102 of the podcast. 102? I don't know how I'm going to do that now. I got to figure out how I'm going to say all these hundreds. Anywho, and I'm Jedi, your host. And this is going to be one of our more constructed focus podcasts. We recently had the team. Oh, I'm so used to saying that. The Tuesday Night Eternal Invitational, Winter Invitational go down, and we had several members of Eternal Journey in the tournament and even make the top 8. So we have them with us tonight, and we're going to be talking about it. But first, I want to welcome my good friends back on the show, starting with Darth_Herman2. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How's it going, guys?
Going great, man. Excited to talk about some constructed because our team is just doing great things. I'm super proud of them. Sitting across from him on the internet, one of our resident brewers and a guy that actually took a liking to one of my decks. Thank goodness. I guess a broken watch is right twice a day. Is John Julio. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm great, man. Having a good day. Ready to talk some Eternal.
Sweet. Without further ado, I want to welcome our two teammates and players that competed in the Invitational, qualifying throughout the season in all various 12 challenges from the Tuesday Night Eternal series. First up, I want to welcome AsheAcer. How you doing, friend?
Yep, doing good. Glad to be here.
And then probably laying down, chilling, drafting at this moment is IP Team Killer Longno. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. I just woke up. A bit sleepy,
sweet.
but really good.
Good morning.
So glad you're excited to be here. So glad. All right, guys, for a little bit of quick housekeeping, you can catch us live every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ. And of course, if you can't catch us live, you can catch us on the internet on YouTube/Eternal Journey, where you can find draft videos, constructed videos, and video versions of the show, as well as the upcoming. I'll be doing my tournament reports from the upcoming opens for the competitive season, maybe even the Tuesday Night Eternal ones as well, because I'll be competing in those when I can. And then time for our shout outs. Want to give a shout out to the ongoing support from a fantastic community that supports us subbing to the channel on Twitch, as well as just hanging out in the Discord and making for a great and friendly environment, helping each other out. Really do appreciate each and every one of you. Now, a couple of milestones that we hit this week. Nitro Turtle coming in with the 6-month primetime. Thank you so much, Nitro Turtle. 6 months hanging out. Meadow, a fellow streamer, hit 9 months hanging out with us. And we got a bunch of people creeping up on 2 years, which is crazy. I can't believe I've been doing this for 2 years already. It seems like time has just flown by. So I appreciate you, John and Alex, just kind of making the time. Always a good time. So of course, time flies when you're having fun. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. And we're going to have our special guests take point on our pack one, pick one. Of course, Ash, are you a drafter? I don't think you are, right?
I like to mess around every now and then, draft some fun stuff. But yeah, no, I tend to leave it by the wayside a bit.
Sweet. Then you're going to go first.
I think I ran into
All right.
Ash in a Scion draft, right? Didn't we throw down?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
He's a draft dabbler.
I mean, I feel like that's one of the things I like about Scion Draft as well. The power level is there where a lot of constructive people want to dabble into it because it's a lot of fun. So I definitely think another perk of Scion drafting. Oh, show. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and break down the pack. And then, like I said, Ash, you'll take point, and then we'll follow up with IP, since you've been consistently top 5 in drafting here lately, you animal, you. All right, we're starting off with Token of Knowledge. This is depleted power that gives you time, primal, and or shadow. Boulder Gate Guard is a 0/3 bird soldier for 1 justice, flying. And then +2 attack when there's a stunned unit, doesn't matter which side of the board. And then summon Plunder. One of my personal favorites, Towering Terrazon Terry T, is a 6/5 dinosaur for 5 double time. Recogulator is a 2/2 Grenadin for 4 fire. Entomb, play 2 1/1 Grenadins, not to be confused with 1/1 Rustlings, which are so much better. Then we have Swaying Sea Kieran, 2/4 Kieran for 3 time. Muster, i.e. play a relic or an attachment and a spell in the same turn. Create and draw a 1/1 Humbug with flying. Dusthoof Brawler is a 5/3 Centaur with Overwhelm for 5 fire. Powder Keg Rider has been surprisingly decent in this format, which is a 3/4 Grenadin for 5 fire. Has Overwhelm, and then Ultimate. When one of your other Grenadin dies, Powder Keg Rider gets a +4 attack. And finally, in the commons section is Prancing Griffin, 1/1 Griffin for 1 justice. Flying, summon, you may give another unit flying this turn. Going into our uncommons, we have Edict of Makar, which is the 1 shadow spell. An enemy unit of your choice can't block this turn. If it's time or justice, kill it. Seed of Chaos is a gain Stone Scar influence, depleted unless you have a sigil in your hand. And then finally, Forbidden Research, the old John Holio special, is a 4 primal fast spell. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards. Gain double justice or double shadow influence. And at the rare slot, we have Jotun Ice Slinger. This is a 6/6 giant for 8 primal. Has Aegis, thank goodness for something. Summon, deal damage to an enemy unit equal to your shadow influence, and you gain that much health. All right, Ash, what are you looking at here?
Well, I'm very greedy. I'm a greedy drafter, so like my eyes go to the top left of the screen almost instantly every time. Luckily though, my sense does kind of get in the way on this one, because yeah, I if this okay, actually if Jotun Ice Slinger would have also dealt damage to the opponent's face rather than just a unit, I would snap pick it and greed for it really hard. But it doesn't. So I think I would probably conform to the Team EJ constructed formula and just pick Towering Terrazon. Just go time fatties, probably try and go Xenon.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can get behind that. That's actually why I ended up picking, not gonna lie. I think it's a fairly safe pick. All right, IP, what are you thinking about?
As you can see, Jotun Ice Slinger is a good rare, but not really impactful in this meta. The format right now is leans heavily away to Felon, because Felon right now in the draft meta is more on mill or discard, and Jotun doesn't do much. Edict can be a good pickup in later picks, but it's not good as a pack pick one. Seed for fixing, you still don't know what your colors or your influences, so I would pass on that. The one thing that's really lighting up in the pack for me is Forbidden Research. It's a blue spell that draws you 3 cards and discards 2, so it's more of a filtering of your hand. It keeps you open with blue, and it also is relevant to gain you the additional influence of either Justice or Shadow. So I think it's a good and safe first pick.
Fair enough. Yeah, John has showed me definitely the power of Forbidden Research, both in constructed and in limited. I agree with you there, John. Speaking of which, what do you think?
Yeah, you called me out earlier on the Forbidden Research, so like it's definitely between that and Terrazon for me. I like time a little more now, but I'd still be on that Forbidden Research like IP here.
Yeah, the other thing to mention as well about Jotun Ice Slinger is the fact that it's 8, and I don't think this format is slow enough for an 8 cost unit. I mean, it can kill something essentially, but yeah, I think you guys are right. The power level can sometimes be there, and the fact that it's 8 just makes you feel a little bit better about it. But yeah, I think I think Boulder Gate Guard is probably another early safe pick, but with things like Forbidden Research and Towering Terrors on in the pack, it's kind of hard pressed, and even Seat, it's hard pressed to pick that up. Solid. All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it, though, which means it is time to dive into our main topic. So, Ash, thanks so much for kind of stepping outside your comfort zone with Limited and then IP. That was a really good breakdown. Appreciate you, friend. All right, so Telemachus has been kind enough to bring back the Tuesday Night Eternal Tournament series, which has been absolutely phenomenal. Shout out to the Misplay podcast. They recently just did a behind the scenes episode following the Invitational, which was absolutely phenomenal. I definitely encourage you guys to go give that a listen as well. They did a great job breaking that down. Shout out as well to a fellow teammate that is not here today, which is Stormguard. They're going to be on the Misplay as well, doing a deeper dive with them. So definitely stay tuned for that as well. Those guys do a great job over there. So once again, shout out to Telemachus for doing all this. Production values through the roof. Community has really had a great time with this, and I think it's great. I've been fortunate enough to not only have him come on to commentate the Peasant tournament, but also be one of the commentators for the Tuesday Night Eternal tournament, and it's been a ton of fun. Ash and IP were two of the people that consistently made it to these challenges and then earned their spot in the Invitational, which was the culmination of those 12 challenges leading up to it. And we just had our first game or first challenge for the new spring season today. So let's start off talking about kind of like a brief overview of your trail to the Invitational, kind of how you qualified for it, and maybe some of the decks that got you there, some little snippets that you guys feel like stood out to you in your journey. Ash, let's start off with you there, friend. What decks were there any decks that stood out to you, and how did you qualify?
I took the easy way or the hard way. Depends who you ask, I suppose. Yeah, I didn't spike a tourney or anything. I think I even made it in with just one top 4 in the entire season. One may say I kind of cheated a position with the wild card slots there. Yeah, no, I was fortunate enough to have such a messed up sleep schedule that I could join in every single one of the tournaments, and that got me enough points to qualify.
I mean, you have to have some kind of consistency to qualify for the wild card points, right? Because they were averaging somewhere between 20 to 25 players, and only 16 made it to the top. And what I think it was 6 wild cards, right? Yeah, no, 4. There's 12 winners and then 4 wild cards. So I mean, there has to be some more consistency there than you let on, you know, right?
I mean, they did end up with 6 wildcard slots because Apple Chips ended up taking down 3 tournaments, adding 2 wildcard slots to the pool. But yeah, the point system was put in place to reward consistent, high ranking players. I think the old system was granting 3 points for everyone in the top 4, and then 5 points to the winner, which wasn't relevant for anything beyond seeding. And then you got 1 participation point if you weren't in the top 4. So yeah, they did have some kind of system in place to reward consistent high finishes.
Got you. And any of the decks stood out to you along the way that you were really happy about?
I don't actually ever remember being really happy about the deck. Coincidentally, my only top 4 in the entire season, I just defaulted to just a Xenon deck, and I just like face pumped so hard when I hit top 4. I was like, this is just going to be my life now. Every time, I just need to default to Xenon to do anything. No, but I think it was mostly down to how I approached the tournament to begin with, because there was, I mean, of course, there was the Invitational on the line, right? But when you start out the season, of course, you're in your mind, you're just thinking like, oh, I'll just spike a tournament and like get to that Invitational, right? You're not really thinking about the whole build up of points over the season. So I kind of took it as a bit of having fun as well, seeing what I could, maybe you could call it cheesing my way into the Invitational. So I think the first tournament I played the scavenger combo, which is like you don't want to play scavenger combo in an open deck list environment, but I thought why not? And I did a lot of these kinds of things. I played like oh actually no. Now that I think about it, no, I do have one deck that I was very proud of, and I was so sad that it didn't perform up to its standards. This was I think the second or third expedition tournament, and I brought a started out as an Elysian transform deck, but it ended up being or adding shadow. Can't remember what we call that. Oh, knowledge. There you go. It ended up being a knowledge transform deck, which just kind of tried to abuse customs officer and fluctuate reality and effects like that to deny them getting their units back and things like this. And I remember just getting matched up against like the one deck that I did not want to face twice, and that just kind of ended my run there. So yeah, no, I was really proud of that deck. I would have wanted it to see it do better, but I think it kind of got changed later on. I think there was some nerfs or something, or some kind of balance patch that made sure I couldn't play it in the following expedition tournament. But yeah, that would be my standout deck, I think, from my season.
Gotcha. Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking, a personal brew or a preferred archetype, even if it might be considered jank. I mean, when the first go around of Tuesday Night Eternal, John Holio was known for bringing these massive relic decks that were just they were not in the meta at all, and John was just consistently throwing down like winning records with them. I mean, definitely made a name for himself for sure, even before I knew him. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, John. I mean, do you want to touch on that just a scotch?
No, I mean,
real quick?
I agree. Yeah, I agree with the sentiment of bringing something that you enjoy playing that you think can also win some games. Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's
I
the
can
one
respect
benefit.
it.
It's the one benefit, right, of the something like a community tournament. Granted, now the World Championship invite is on the line, but the fact that it's not straight up and open, it's free to enter. It's kind of community where it's that fine line you can kind of blade run between super competitive and just something that you think is decent and want to enjoy playing versus just being in the casual queues or whatnot. Okay, sending it over to you, IP. Tell us about some of the standout decks that got you there and what got you there, as a matter of fact.
I keep remembering the first TNE that got me into a top 4. I went undefeated with Stone's Cart. Was the first tourney for the season with I think around 11 players only. I was doing so well with the deck, and then I got beat by Stormguard, who I guess is obviously the better Stone Scar player, or maybe the luckier person out of both of us. What else? I guess in Expedition, the Karendon Nodai enemy deck, which was around before, but when people were saying that Display of Vision was gone and some of the key components from the last Expedition format, I was just thinking, okay, how can we make this better? How can it be more consistent? And it still proves to be um, a defining deck in the format right now, I guess. It's still good against soldiers, sentinels, and what you can see in the format. Our team always tries to renege back to Xenon. Because like Xenon is really good, even though it's kind of boring for 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 how many times you can enter with it. It gets stale, it gets repetitive, but it's still a good deck. It's kind of slow, but it still outgrinds you with value and everything. What made me go to the TNE is like just a good team. Great, great testing partners and great deck builders. And even if I'm not really that good of a brewer, I just try to refine some of their ideas just to fit the meta.
Yeah, and then what? So you was it just the top 4? No, you took down. You took down a tournament, right?
No, I was always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I think I got what 3 top 4s, 2 or 3 top 4s. and losing always in the semis.
Well, I mean, everyone makes top four for a reason, so that's where competition really gets steep, and sometimes you got to have a little bit of luck on your side as well, right?
Yep. I went into the invitational by having the second most highest points in the wild card bracket. So I came in with, I think, 16 points for the total season, which slotted me in for an invite. And when I knew of that, I was just saying, "Oh, hey, Tele, do you need a person on coverage?" It's like I was just relaxing until the invitational.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with you. What deck did you? The Invitational obviously was a two-prong format or two-format tournament and whatnot. So why don't you guys break down a little bit of your testing and like what led you up to selecting the decks you guys took? IP, we'll start off with you. Let's go ahead and do Expedition first because Throne was a little bit of a spicier, so we'll leave that one for last. So how'd you guys go about getting ready for Expedition?
I had no idea because we were testing for Throne. We did the opposite of the other teams. They tested for Expedition. We tested for Throne, because in we I think it was like 2 days prior to the invitation to the deck registration submission. It's like, okay, what do we bring? Do we just bring soldiers? Do we bring Xenon? Do we bring anything else? Oh, we'll just go back to Corendon or Vision. I think that's. I think we'll just try to play that out. It's just tried and tested. With the buff to Reality Warden, it seemed like a good choice, and it also with no die enemy just smashing against soldiers, it seemed to be an optimal choice for the meta. But after seeing the list, we could have just played um a Argent Port Valks, or I guess Xenon. But at least two of our teammates made it to top 8 with the Expedition.
So I think Expedition was like, as IP said, yeah, we kind of did the exact opposite of what all the other teams did, and like put so much thought into just like big braining the throne part, and yeah, Expedition kind of fell by the wayside of it. But I think once the conversation got started, I think the main reason we were on KTE or Corendon was because of soldiers, right? And I think we just picked the wrong side of the coin flip of like soldiers was the deck to beat, and KTE beats soldiers, so we picked that. But of course, everybody is trying to beat soldiers. So I think if we would have tested a bit more in Expedition, that especially the Combray ramp deck would have been on the radar, because I saw it on Eternal Warcry actually not long before the tournament, but I didn't think much of it. Yeah, I think if we would have been on ladder a bit before the tournament, it might have been on the radar, and then it might have sparked some form of like deck change. But no, I think we just kind of took the wrong side of the coin flip. And yeah, as IP said, the second the deck list got uh, got released, it was just Huru Control and Combray Ramp, and I was just like, okay, we're doomed. Like this is just doomed.
I mean, you guys were just visualizing and succeeding, right? You guys, because it was Expedition in the Swiss and then thrown for the top 8, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys were just like, all right, we're all gonna make top 8, so let's go ahead and focus on our top 8 matchups.
I think
Yeah.
it was actually it got as bad as like round 1. I think every single one of us got one of the dreaded matchups, right? So there was a couple soldier decks, but we all just managed to dodge those matchups like crazy, and we all went 0-1. And like I know I was sitting there like, oh, this is so doomed. And like, spoiler alert, I did go 0-3, but it's just so. Oh, I got matched against IP, of course, in round 2. IP making his team killer name true. Like, oh my god. So I got matched against IP, which is just the most sluggish mirror match you're ever going to play. And then Storm, I think Storm actually got matched against a Huru Control, either in round 2 or 3. I think he dodged a bad matchup once and then actually won a bad matchup in another round. And yeah, IP, I can't remember what you faced round 3, but yeah, I
I
went 0-3 and
I faced against a soldiers deck which I did a misplay on the first game, which I could have just locked in and won already. But I did a misplay by forgetting that from the shadows kills 5 powered creatures, not 4 like Smite. So it just rested on my hand against the soldier matchup, which I could have just gotten Svetya and just locked out the game.
It happens to the best of us sometimes. I've done that before. I think actually even today I played a Vanquishing Blade. Like my opponent I th- my opponent curtain called in response to my attacks. I was like, oh sweet, I got a Vank Blade in hand, so I'll just kill the thing because I'll kill their Tokos now. And then I immediately played the Vank Blade and then realized I didn't have enough power for the spellcraft. I was like, womp womp.
isn't there something else going on if you Vank Bladed after a curtain call?
Oh yeah, I guess it wouldn't work anyways. Lol. Yeah, you're right. Good point. So I was just mega bad. I was all kinds of bad. Yep, good point. See, that's why I'm not qualified for Worlds yet. There you go. All right. So that covered the expedition part of it. Let's go ahead and talk into the throne because that's really a spicy thing. That was something that you guys were talking about for a hot minute leading up to the tournament. So, all right, let's start off with you this time, Ash. Tell us about the throne brew and how you guys came about it.
Okay, so as usual, you'll have a list of suspects, right? Like you got to identify what the meta is. So obviously you're going to have meta decks on your list of what to potentially play, and then you'll have some other options, maybe things that have been working well for you or whatnot. And in this case, Storm put together a little list of options and made a spreadsheet for us to test on. And it's like, okay, nice, yep. And I saw one little gem on this spreadsheet. He put it in at the end of the list as a like, I mean I guess it was just as a kind of joke thing of like, oh, I guess we can try this. And he just put Feln Mill. I was like, all of these other decks are really not working for me. So I just followed my brain to meme land and just like copy pasted the mill list, made some changes, and it just tore through ladder like crazy. So I was just like, hey, IP Storm, do we just play mill? And such was born the TEJ Mill Dream, I think IP called it.
Maybe that was a super simplification of it, but literally it was just like, you're like, film, huh? Let me see what happens. And it just worked out.
Pretty much, like it kind of magically fell into place on ladder, and then I was testing it a bit for like the public enemy number one matchups, as it were. And yeah, okay, there was a bit of trouble against Kira, where the Aegis would either deny a guaranteed win off of Solitude, and it could also like deny a good Essence Feast. It could deny quite a couple things that you needed to get the edge in that matchup. And so I just kind of thought at one point, and this is kind of the part where it kind of got spicy and where it kind of got to the point where we were seeing it as a real option, I think. And I was just like, hey, can we not just add a couple shadow creepers or something in the list, right? And from that point on, it just started working so smooth for me, at least. And I think IP kind of had the same on ladder. And yeah, Shadow Creeper just came in as a super clutch card. Of course, it has the clause that nothing can have an Aegis, and on top of that, it's also a discard outlet for Felrock, and it kills an enemy unit, and it's just like everything that I was looking for to fill out the couple holes that Mill was showing. but yeah, that's kind of how it came together. It just kind of fell into my lap when I was just like in a desperation mode of I don't know what to pick, and I just played some mill, and I'm at least glad that IP and Storm got to actually show it off on the coverage.
Nice. IP, what's your side of that story?
I forgot to preface this before your question, but like during the testing for the invitation, I was just thinking I would told Stormguard and Ash that I won't do much testing. I'll leave it to you guys. I'll just see what spicy list you come up with, and I'll refine it to the best of what I can do. And they were saying, "Oh, Mill, found Mill. Huh? Are we going the even route or not?" When I saw what they wanted, it's like, "Huh? This looks good. This looks great." Then I tried testing it on ladder. I think I made masters with the deck from silver 3 because I didn't make masters last month with the deck with a I think it was a 50 and 5 record with the deck. So it's like, oh, this can work. This hosts some matchups. Huh. Why didn't I think of this? It's like, okay, let's try it. It's like I was after before that I was like trying out whatever kind of decks. Like we'll play Sling. It didn't work unless you brought the deck. If you didn't get the named card, I have never wanted to touch Horukira before the invitation, and just wanted to play it afterwards for last night's this morning's or last night's TNE Spring Challenge #1. I didn't like Elysian Spells, and it wasn't even on my radar. What else? Xenon Reanimators is so is a deck filled with so many variants that I didn't even want to play it due to my luck. So yeah, found mill. It's like kinda like control, kinda like aggro, and it's like kinda like combo if you mill out the opponent. Uh, it was really fun. It was really hard to convince Stormguard on it though, because I know like every player has a definitive archetype or a playstyle that they want to play. Like you have the Burgund who always plays control. You have like Ash, I guess Ash has kind of a playstyle where he just plays wonky decks or like just reneges to to decks that the team suggests. John Holio here is more of a control player, just wants to draw cards and never like have an empty hand. So
The no win con special.
mhm. I mean,
Alex, it's mono one drops.
yeah. So like when I saw Stormy, it's like, huh, this isn't a playstyle that he's gonna like. Because I know him more of an aggro player with Stone Scar, Yetis, and the Felon Mom, which kinda is an aggro mid-range type. So I don't know if he could have adjusted. If you have read his article that recently got put out either today or last night that he was having a frustrated time on ladder with both the Karandon deck and the Felon discard deck. It's like, should I just play something else? Should I just play Stone Scar instead? It's like, oh, but we actually wanted prior to testing and everything, we actually wanted just to bring a team deck for both formats because win or lose, we'll just say it was maybe wrong if we didn't make top 8. It was like due to luck and skills but not the deck itself. So yeah, I'm really happy that I made top 4 with the deck, and that sweet $25 is nothing to scoff at.
I mean, it's funny you say that because Stormguard like almost got to the finals like you did with it, and did some sweet piloting with it. So I mean, at the very least, maybe you guys were definitely on to something. The record that you showed, definitely, that's really impressive. I think that's nothing, like you said, to scoff at. Essentially, that's you don't get a record like that by chance, right? Like that's more than luck. So it's definitely something that's sweet. What was your biggest contribution to the deck, since you consider yourself one of the tuners of the team, essentially taking other people's ideas and kind of running the reps with them and cleaning up the lists?
I think it was keeping Solitude in the market and agreeing with Ash for the Shadow Creeper in as a creature spot, as well as Two Face. I think just to proc on Dark Water Vines is the card. I think
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
Storm wanted evolving old Xiao to the market just to have an answer for both the site and the relic. But the only relic really has a that really is prominent in the format right now is Sling of the Chi, which can't be transformed by evolving Ozio. And sites didn't really matter when you can have like 3/6/4 flying cards from Savage Incursion, or if you just milled out the opponent.
Creeper is so good. Like when I played it the first time, I was like, "Oh man, this is ridiculous." You pitch a Fell Rock, you break their Aegis, and you remove a unit. Like, oh, this is gas. Like, great job there, man.
Like I'm actually glad that IP you mentioned Stormguard's article, because like there are actually so many interesting discussions to be had with card choices in this deck. Because I mean, yeah, Stormguard went into quite a bit of detail actually on quite a lot of the picks in the article, so I definitely suggest reading it. But yeah, there's so many niche things. One of them you already alluded to was the solitude in the market. One line from Storm's article really hit me, was like, we're not actually a mill deck in the usual sense of the word, right? Because when you see mill, you think, oh, you're winning by making sure your opponent has no deck left. But I think that's just kind of not what this deck actually was. So maybe even calling it Feln Discard like Telemachus did in the coverage was actually a better shout, because really we're just setting up for what was it, Silverblade Menace and
Mhm.
Savage Incursion, right? And I don't think I have played a game on ladder, like maybe once or twice, where you play a Savage Incursion with 20 like fully activated and the opponent doesn't concede. That just hardly ever happens. If you can get there, it's just so overwhelming, that card. And just the Silverblade Menace was so well positioned in the meta, in my opinion. Like Kira incidentally plays a lot of spells. You got the Elysian spell deck that just dies to it, and then all the other decks just kind of lose to the life swing. And Silverblade Menace is one of those cards that's like, do you play it main? Do you play it in the market? Like, I faced Tempest Dragon King today, who took Mill with him to the invitational that just happened, or the sorry, the challenge that just happened. And I met him on ladder, and I was messaging him, and yeah, he was running Menace in the market. And this is one of those things where I was like, I would never even queue Mill in this meta not running Menace's main board. And there's all these little things like this. Do you play Tome? Do you not play Tome? There's a lot of arguments for not playing Tome, but I think you just want to be playing Tome at the moment, which is why I wanted to be playing Two Face. And like within Mill, there's so many of these arguments that can just like spiral into your deck choices, as it were. And yeah, I think that's why I spent so much time on Throne in the preparation, because I just really enjoyed the theory crafting behind what we wanted to be doing with this mill deck.
So after the tournament, you guys got a chance to test it in a more competitive scene other than, ladder and whatnot. So what are your takeaways? Are you still are you guys still on the deck, or do you think this is something moving forward, or are there any adjustments you want to make?
I'm still
I
carrying with it.
I I still think that it's an okay thing on ladder. To be honest, it's a fine deck. Like I know that it gets a lot of hate from people just saying, "Oh, Mill's not a good deck. Mill's not a real deck. why did these guys bring it on the Invitational? Are they serious, or do they want to win? Like things like that. So I mean, we did show how the deck works, and it was really good.
That was so interesting. Like, I was kind of, I'm usually very involved with all the brewing stuff, but like, since so many of you guys were, qualified, you guys basically had you know, a solid crew working on all this stuff, and I saw you guys putting in all this work, and I just wanted to kind of observe, and it was really interesting, and that was enlightening to hear that discussion. Thank you guys.
I think it's one of my favorite things about being on a team. Like, don't get me wrong, when you're brewing with the community like we do on Discord and stuff, that's a lot of fun as well. But it's kind of one of those things where it's a little less focused, a little more, not essentially too many chefs, not in the kitchen. I think it's still a great experience, but something about testing on a team when you get that hyper focus, where you have so many minds kind of going in the same direction to help you really lock down and tighten up that deck list is so much fun, especially when you find something that's off the beaten path like that. Like, it's really rewarding. So I think you guys did a great job. I'm very proud of all you guys. Congratulations, Longno, for making the quarterfinals. And then Ash, I know you had a rough go of it, like you said, but still, I think it's impressive for you to make the invitational regardless. So good job to both of you guys. Anything else, anything about the tournament series in general that you guys like to either give a shout out to or just mention to our listeners out there?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, is, guys, there's Worlds invites. There is Worlds invites on the line for these upcoming 2 seasons. So as much as it diminishes my own chances, definitely, just like try it out. Like, it why not? I think is a good mantra to use here.
Yeah, in fact, we already saw an increase in today's tournament. I typically wasn't able to make the Friday ones because it started when I was at work, but now that they adjusted the new time, I actually just choose to not sleep, and I'm able to make it. So I think they, like I said, they average somewhere between 20 to 25 players on the normal tournaments, and this one today, what was that, like 43 players, I believe, something like that?
57.
57.
57. Wow.
58.
That's awesome. That I'm so happy for Telemachus and just our community in general. I think that's fantastic. But thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys coming on the show, talking to us about your experience a little bit, and really promoting the Tuesday Night Eternal series. Hopefully we continue to see this this event grow as it's the premier community event. I mean, case in point. Oh, also shout out to Direwolf. Let me give that shout out to Direwolf for definitely putting in the support, the misplays, evaluation of the community. Definitely had mentioned a couple of times that one of the biggest things people want is more streamer support from Direwolf. And I mean, it's our World Series event tournament for the year, and Direwolf was kind enough to give 2 invites to a community ran tournament. So I think that's phenomenal of them. So shout out to them as well. And making the solid announcement finally, even though I know it was long expected from a lot of people and long time coming, but at least we got one, and it was extremely informative. So I, for one, am excited about it. So that leads us into our constructed corner. And of course, since we have our guests on, we chose one of their brews. So Ash, this is one of your pet projects. We'll have the deck list on the Eternal Warcry link and the show notes down below. But the premise of this is essentially a unit-based combo deck with Belligerent Yeti and Stained Honor, trying to one-shot kill your opponent. So with that, all right, Ash, go ahead and break it down.
So I guess the short selling line of the deck, or actually just the combo, like you can build a deck around it however you like, but the selling point of the deck is, do you like carpal tunnel syndrome? Then you will love this deck. You will click an average of your opponent's life total times 2 once the combo gets rolling. And I know I said an average of, no, you will just click your opponent's life total times 2. And you will never ever see a deck with more 2-drops, I think. But yeah, as you said, Jedi, it's basically just looking to assemble a board where you have a Belligerent Yeti, which you can twist for 1 power to deal 1 damage to an enemy. And then you have Stained Honor, which makes your twist cost 1 less. So, I mean, 1 minus 1 is 0. So you have a free twist on Belligerent Yeti. So that's pay 0, deal 1 damage. But the downside of twist, obviously, is that you're decreasing the health of your unit. Now, Belligerent Yeti only has 1 health, and usually you would only be able to do 1 damage. They kind of messed up though in that regard, and they being Direwolf, and they printed a card that makes your unit unable to die. So you can do this with Queen of Glass as well, I'm pretty sure, but that's a very convoluted way, and you have to wait 3 turns on Speaking Circle to do it. You can also just pay 3 and play Curtain Call. What this means is you have a 7 power combo that if your opponent doesn't have any interaction before the Curtain Call hits, they will just die. And what you alluded to, Jedi, is with this being the original version, I said yes and no. I kind of started off on just like a Time Primal Shadow version of the list, which is back when Curtain Call got popularized a bit, and this list was making its rounds, and I kind of saw somebody using the combo, and I thought, I love this, and I decided to brew a bit with it. And the original version, was not running justice, but I didn't see anybody do this before I did it. So as far as I know, I can claim having done this first. I thought the whole combo is based on these 2 drops, right? And you need to find them, otherwise you just durdle and the deck doesn't do anything. And you're running Even-Handed Golem anyway, because at that time, the combo actually only cost 6 because Curtain Call was a 2 cost. And you just ran like an Even-Handed Golem deck, which ran 4 of all of these combo pieces and just kind of hoped to draw into them. And I thought, well, why don't we just add Justice? Why don't we just use Kilo, like the tutoring unit in Eternal, to just turn these Even-Handed Golems, and at the time, and in this version still, because I'm running Kilo, it was running Unfamiliar Interloper, which just is a colorless, factionless, stranger that gives you an influence of your choice, right? But it's a 2-drop, and you can turn it into another 2-drop. So I thought, we'll just run Kilo. And that's kind of how this deck idea got born. And incidentally, that's how I joined Team EJ, because Cal got destroyed by it on ladder and seemed to be so impressed for some reason. And yeah, the deck has suffered a bit. Like it has lost its glory for sure. Mainly because Curtain Call is no longer a 2 cost. So you can't run it main deck in an even deck, which means you either don't go even and then you lose a lot of the draw power you would otherwise get to like actually find your combo, or you put Curtain Call in the market. The problem with this was then that you had to run a Wasteland Broker market. And okay, so I can go on and on about the problems that this deck faced, but like eventually they made Direwolf made Grafters, which added a new option for even markets, and this is how we ended up where we are now. So this deck literally has 2 4-drops, and the rest are all 2-drops, and that is just like I love looking at it. Oh, it has actually 2 0-drops as well, but that's last chance. That's just to grab back a combo piece if it happens to get into the void. But yeah, what you're looking to do is just like slap down some Even-Handed Golems, draw into your either your combo pieces or kilos, and there's like 2 of Reweave in the deck as well to kind of have a redundancy effect. But yeah, you're just looking to get into your kilos, into your combo pieces, and set up a turn where you have 7 power and 4 time influence, which is very important for the Curtain Call. And then, yeah, you're just looking to play out the Belligerent Yeti, play out the Stained Honor, make sure they both can't die. It doesn't matter for the Stained Honor too much, because once the combo gets going, you usually already won. But yeah, I like to just like make both the combo pieces unkillable, and you just go off. You activate your Carpal Tunnel Syndrome, click the enemy face a lot, and then you just watch as all of the individual damage pings ping the opponent with lifesteal because of the curtain call, and you just kind of sit there and think to yourself, what have I done? Oh wait, no, this is actually really fun, and you go through that emotional roller coaster.
Do you have a lot of people concede once you kind of get the combo going, or not really? They make you click through it all?
It depends. I think it depends on whether they know the combo or not. Like I see some people that are playing decks that seem to indicate that they haven't been around for too long and haven't built up that much of a collection. Like they usually make me click through it, and I assume that is because they don't know what's happening, and they maybe assume that it's going to stop at some point. But yeah, no. Usually, when people realize what's going on, they will concede. But actually, like, I wouldn't be surprised if people just out of spite make you click through it.
John, has this been one of the brews that's ever interest you?
It's no, because I play a lot on Xbox. And
Oh gosh,
mobile,
yeah.
like as opposed to PC. So like I would only recommend playing this deck on computer, really, because
sure.
of all the APM issues as discussed by Ash here. It's like reminds me of my old StarCraft days, you know?
Yeah, no joke. That's why Cal recruited him. Cal was like, man, the hand speed on this guy is crazy.
Oh, very important, by the way. If you do play this deck, please don't reweave for a belligerent Yeti, because you will put your hands in your hair and cry because you realize that your belligerent Yeti is shifted and you can't activate it. Just a disclaimer: don't ever reweave for a belligerent Yeti.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm sure I would have done it at least once after playing it. I'm like, oh sweet, I get to tutor for my wink. Never mind.
You can do it for Stained Honor, because it doesn't matter for Stained Honor whether it's shifted or not. It's actually better if it's shifted, because they can't interact with it. But yeah.
Yeah, for a little bit I remember on ladder the bee's knees, or the new hotness, was the big Svetya reweaving into the last Macdo.
Oh yeah.
That you can't lose the game, so it stays shifted, so you can't lose the game for at least 3 turns.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty. I thought that was pretty spicy. I was like, all right, I could get behind this. Like, this is some stuff. I was like, you're reweaving Svetya. Like, what could you possibly? Oh,
there you go.
I mean, most of the time it was just like a last ditch resort, and I think most people still won through that for the most part. But I mean, it was still spicy.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, fair enough. Well, guys, I think that's going to do it. I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to come on the show. I know it's an awkward time for both of you guys, so I do appreciate it. But I wanted to give you guys a shout out and also just promote the Tuesday Night Eternal tournament, and hopefully be seeing you guys in this season's invitational, as well as maybe even John Julio, if he can get his schedule right to get some games in and whatnot. And I mean, I guess, you know, maybe everyone sleeps in one day and misclicks, and I get to spike a tournament to make it. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Oh man, and I can avoid getting paired against IP.
we can all pray
That's
for that.
That's the big part, yeah.
Yeah, I might just end up trying to like lose one of my rounds on purpose, so I'm out of IP's bracket.
What? No. What? No.
I don't blame you for that one, Jedi. We need to set up some way to make sure that we never get matched up with IP.
Either that, or like we have a sub team training or testing thread to like beat IP. So we have our testing thread for like the rest of the meta, and then we're like, all right, what kind of sideboard or market tech are we gonna have against IP?
I feel so honored by that.
Nice.
It's easy.
Oh,
We
man.
just market against Xenon, easy kills.
Oh man, I was so excited too when I was watching coverage and I saw you and Stormguard in the semifinals. I was like, oh man, how cool would it be if both of our guys match up? And I'm like, see, Long though, that's how it happens. It's supposed to happen in the finals, not you're winning in.
Right.
I remember we were playing HOTS at the time, and you were just like, every time you were exclaiming, and I thought, oh, what's happening? Do I need to help? What's happening? And then you're like, oh yes, Stormguard's doing it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's what a team's for, right? Ash, you were like, I need to do something that's not Eternal right now because I'm kind of irritated. I'm like, man, we've all been there. I'm like, dude, let's go play HOTS or something. Let's do something to actively keep your mind off of things instead of just sitting there and brewing, because I've definitely done that before.
Yeah, that helps a lot actually.
Yeah, I think we talked to, who was it? There was someone that popped in the Twitch channel at one point, and they lost in the finals. And I'm like, it was the typical conversation, right? That most of us competitive players know, where it's like, man, that was great. Second place is awesome this night. He's like, yeah, but I should have won, or I wanted to win essentially. And it's one of those. It's so weird, but it's so very true, right? I remember one of my first PPTQs that I made it to the finals and lost, and it's like, you made money, you got your invite to the next PPTQ or whatnot, everything's like all good, but you still feel like garbage because you're like, I was so close, I just didn't get the invite. So I think we can all kind of sympathize with that for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, that's your karma, IP, since you keep taking out teammates. Like, the quarterfinals is always the bane. You're like, I just gotta get past the quarters.
It is, man. It is so infuriating.
Yeah,
You'll get there, man.
yeah, no doubt, dude. You're such a good player. Like, it's all about consistency, man. Anyone that does it knows that a good part of these card games comes with good deck choices, solid gameplay, and then a little bit of luck as well, right? We hear about it all the time.
A lot of luck.
Don't forget the special sauce.
Yeah, I need to get the special sauce, man.
Yeah, because any player can beat any other given player, regardless of deck or whatever, just because of randomness, right? You can come across, case in point, you can come across your one bad matchup. It's like, all right, well, this is not a very popular deck, and I'm horrible at it. But once again, we won't. Oh, what do you know? I get paired round 1 and 4 against it. Awesome. IP, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. I'm just so zoned out right now. I'm sorry.
Sweet. I'm gonna leave that in. Ash, thank you so much for coming on the show too, man. I appreciate you.
It's my pleasure entirely.
And of course, Alex, John, you guys are great. I don't know how you put up with me week after week, but I do appreciate you guys.
You're great.
Yeah, thanks.
You're the greatest, man. It's so good. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and self-promote. Definitely go on the YouTubes and check out this my latest deck tech with a Noah Elevator, Overseer, and Clutch of Talons. And I'm saying that because it was something I did just because I was like, let's see what happens. We spent 30 minutes on one of our streams trying to figure out exactly how the change in the latest patch notes like did for her. And so I started brewing, and John actually thought it was a good idea. So I was like, yeah, I did something. So go on the YouTube, check that out. It's fun. I don't know if it's going to be rocking the ladder or anything like that, but it's a little mini value engine. So there you guys have it. But all right, guys, that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Don't know what we're doing next week, so tune in. We probably need to talk about the draft format. I feel like it's been forever since we talked about draft, to be honest with you.
The quest for the
should do
special
that.
sauce.
What was that?
We're doing the quest for the special sauce.
Yes, that's gonna be John's spin-off episode. There you go.
The quest for the special sauce with Jan Julio and Dart Herman 2.
All right, with that, let's go ahead and end it there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate you. Until next time, as always, oh God, happy gaming.
Peace.
Good luck in your draft keys, everyone.
I'm leaving all that in. I'm just gonna leave it in there.
Special sauce.
Are we done with the podcast?
Yeah.
Well, now I am. I'm about to stop recording right